All right, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order. It is now 6:05. We have a few things to look at this evening. The annual, we're not the annual, we have some budget policies or financial policies to go over, and we also have a couple contracts to take a look at this evening. But we have, while we're awaiting another member to show up to come into the meeting, we do have one transfer that came in after I had set the agenda. So I would entertain a motion to go out of the regular order of business.
And so this would be a non-anticipated 48 hours before?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to go out of order and consider new business first, please.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to go out of the regular order of business to review new business. Is there any, are there any concerns or questions with going out of the regular order?
None here.
Seeing hearing none, all those in favor of going out of the order of business, signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining? All right, so we are looking at number 6, which is the unanticipated in the last previous 48 hours.
I make a motion to transfer from the reserve fund, department number 132, to the...
What's 132?
Is the reserve fund.
Okay.
What department is 146?
Oh, God.
That's the collector's office.
To the collector's office, department number 146, the amount of $275. The original appropriation was $160, and the current balance is $100.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to transfer the funds from the reserve account number 132 to account 146 collector's office in the amount of $275. This is to cover training that came up that it was unanticipated. I spoke with Joe about it. It was unanticipated because he didn't know if they were going to have room in the class, and suddenly they showed up. So,
What was the training on? Curious.
I'm trying to remember what it was.
So he's working towards his certified municipal collector. So this is one of the required trainings for that. And he actually got in. Last year he applied for it and didn't get in. It's just a question of whether they have a room.
Yeah.
He managed to sign up early enough to get in the door. So I
Well,
told him if
good
he got
for
in the
him.
door, I'd figure out how to pay for it.
Good for him, that's good.
I think we can figure it out. I'm all for training.
I absolutely am all for
Training's
it.
always good.
Yep.
Yep.
All righty. Right, are there any other concerns or questions relating to this transfer?
None here.
Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
All those opposed, all those abstaining. That is unanimous. Thank you.
Is that 2026?
No,
No,
that'll be
that's
out
2027.
2027, all right,
So this
just
is a
clarifying
reserve-
that.
Yeah.
First reserve fund
One
transfer
for-
out of
one
2020.
Actually, it's the second. We did one for the Historical Commission to cover the cost of the,
That's right.
to cover the cost of the little box that sits outside. Smelly box.
The toilet.
The toilet.
That's right.
Put a little mark over the top. All right. Let's see.
Is there any other new business?
Just sign that. We'll get this out of the way, get it to, if you could pass that along to Lori tomorrow, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, sir, and I can.
All right, now, next order of business, I had two things. The review of contracts that were previously distributed. We had one from Muni Worth Innovations, and another one from Was it CEI?
Related to the CEI contract for engineering services, correct?
All right, so has everyone had an opportunity to kind of peruse these a little bit?
Just as a reminder, on the Muniworth contract, our attorney has reviewed the document, discussed it with their attorney, and this is the net of their conversation that both parties can live with.
Can you give us a brief cliff notes on this particular software product,
So,
please?
yep. So what this financial software does helps us plan how we should save, how we should set user fees, how we should fund different infrastructure projects, basic all underground or horizontal, no vertical. So this applies to the stormwater and the sanitary sewer piping. This particular software has been used by the town's water department very successfully. It has also been used by the town of Lee for the past 3 years. It's also been used by Williamstown for the last couple of years as well. And all communities have been very satisfied with it.
What's its scope of?
I mean, how does it operate?
Yep.
So what you do is you feed, in this particular case, we're going to go predate the high school. We're going to go back to 2017, load from 2017 to 2026 into the machine, or 2025. And so it can see how much we invested, how much debt we have, how we handle different issues.
Are we
and
talking
learn from that.
financials, or are we
Financials.
talking? All right, we're not talking stormwater with this?
There are two separate things. There's a financial piece, and after the financial piece gets loaded, so they have an understanding of how we manage investments and where our debt situation stands, then it goes and takes a look at the underwater piping, which we feed to it via ArcGIS, so it has extreme detail. It knows how long pipes are, it knows what depth pipes are, it knows what materials they are, when it was installed,
So do we need the financial package? Why don't we just deal with the,
because what it helps you do is it helps you set user fees for sanitary sewer lines. Because in the first year, what we have is we have all the detailed sanitary sewer data. We do not have yet enough data on the stormwater system to be able to do that. That's what the CEI contract is going to provide for us. It's got part of it done in the phase 1, but the remainder of what we need to know in the final details to make it a worthwhile venture, that is something that we're going to have completed by, or mostly completed by May of next year. So generally what they do is they load the financial data so they can help us figure out, how much to save, when to save, and so forth. Then they load the piping data in, along with our anticipated roads that we're going to be repaving, so it can give them some idea of prioritization. They look at the age of pipes, they look at the history of repairs and so forth. They make some using AI and so on. They make estimates as to which is most likely to fail first, and make recommendations as to what the optimal order of repair would be and how much it's going to be.
this software, is that going on our database?
It
Is
is.
that gonna be in the town's servers?
It won't be on the town server.
It will not?
It'll be on the cloud. We'll have access to it from our computers, but it won't be on our server, as far as I understand it. Why would that matter?
Today, most of the things, we're ending up dealing with are software as a service. There's very little, we were talking about that today, and it's something that eventually will have to go before the finance committee. It's the updating the ERP that we're currently using, because they basically discontinued support for their product running locally, and going forward, they're heavily pushing everybody to adopt it as software as a service, which I'm not necessarily happy about, but, we may not have a choice. We can put it off a year or two, but we can't put it off forever. But that is unfortunately the way the world is going, or fortunately, depending on your perspective.
Why we go from 3 years to a 1-year contract?
Because if you do a 3-year contract, it would have been, even with the discounts, it would have been over $10,000, so we would have had to go on and done an RFP. If we do the RFP, which we don't mind doing, I have most of that prepared. The issue is that we're still not going to get it out, get it back, and be able to get everything all lined up to get meaningful data for this year's capital planning committee.
Okay, is the data ready to load soon so that we're utilizing it over the course of the year, or is it?
The
gonna
data
take a
is sitting
year
in town hall right at the moment, just needs to be marshaled and sent.
Okay.
So the question is, how long is it gonna take them to get it all prepared?
It takes 2 weeks to put the financial piece together. It takes 3 weeks to 4 weeks to put the engineering piece together. It takes another 2 to 3 weeks after that to exercise the model to make sure that they fine-tune it to truly reflect our situation.
So then we'll get like 9 to 10 months to use that after everything's uploaded then.
On this particular contract, but I anticipate that next year we're going to want to upgrade to and be able to go and start figuring out what we should do with the stormwater system. So it would be at that point that we'll have had time to actually go and do the RFP, and we'll enter into a 3-year contract with them and enjoy 15% or so plus minus savings over what if we just do it on the a la carte one at a time.
Let me ask about, there are a large number of horizontal maintenance software programs available. Have we looked at one that integrates both the highways, highway drainage, the sewer system, the whole horizontal process? Or is this like, what was the one we just had with the highways, that scan?
Street scan.
So we use street scan for roads and sidewalks,
Right.
and a few other things. We can't really extend street scan into underground stuff because they have no real way of evaluating that stuff. What they do is they have the ability to scan every bit of road, every bit of sidewalk,
Seen that.
produce a pavement condition index, produce videos of the whole thing, rank it all, prioritize it, and then it's got a tool which allows you to model and try to understand how you maximize your total road network for the minimum amount of cost. And that is, there are other programs that do that for roads, but, and you can hire independent engineering services to do it. There are a few. But StreetScan's the only real major national player with that technology. There are other companies that try to do it where they give you a little setup, so you basically put your iPhone on your dash, attach it to this GPS gizmo that also has a little accelerometer, and you drive around the roads and measure them yourself. But the data you get from StreetScan's a lot cleaner.
Oh, yeah.
So we're not anticipating, Waterworth would be able to deal with the road work planning and capitalization also. But since we're not using them for the scanning, and by using StreetScan for the scanning, we get that tool already. There's no reason to duplicate that tool with Waterworth. So essentially we're splitting and we're saying roads and sidewalks, City Logic / Street Scan, because that City Logic is the principal company of that produces Street Scan. And then for everything underwater or underground, we're going to be dealing with Waterworth, which is water. Even though we are not paying for that, the water district already has Waterworth. And then this year we're adding sewers to it. Next year we're adding stormwater to it. So we have a comprehensive.
That was, my main concern was duplicity in our software. That was my main concern with that question. The next question is, how are we looking with integrating with the water district? It is important from an aspect of a town as a whole, and there arguments can be made either way. One is separate from the other, and the other is separate from this, and it's an ongoing argument within the town of Dalton. But at the same time, there has to be some point where the two will have to come together, whether we like it or not, because stormwater runoff has an effect on our water system, so that everybody needs to kind of get along here to some degree. It doesn't mean one taking over the other, but at some point, is there a plan? Has there been discussions with relationship to integrating ours with the water district?
Because if the water
What
district
we have done
has
already
that.
is we are moving the water department's underground map onto the same map with the sanitary sewer and the stormwater system. So all three will be depicted in different layers, but on the same map. So you'll be able to see all three whenever it is you have to do a road. You don't have to go to two different maps and guess. It'll all be in one place.
Right, and if you take it out of our level, as in Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen, Town Administration, and you go down to the level of the people that are doing the actual work, there's a great working relationship between Public Works and the Water District, because neither of them is big enough to tackle so we are constantly loaning them bodies for big projects, and likewise they're supporting us, and we give them a list of everything we're gonna pave and everything we're gonna reclaim, and we do it in such a way that they have time to do if they have things they wanna do on that section, that's built into our planning, kind of at the base level. All we're doing now is trying to take it up to the executive level so that when we're planning, on that level, we're coordinating too. And I think that's starting to happen.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was driving at, is that it's great to have all these various pieces of software, but if we've got one faction, we got one fiefdom here, we got another fiefdom there, and another one over here doing all, and everybody, believe it or not, everybody's kind of pulling the cart in the same direction. As crazy as that may seem and sound, as you mentioned, Tom, you're going to have layers. Well, there are many cases where our sewers intersect with the water lines, and the water lines intersect with our stormwater runoff, and so sooner or later the two are going to have to, and they do, and I agree, down at the lower levels. So now the upper levels, us and other, the select board and others need to kind of come together and start cooperating, kind of like the people that are down there in the trenches working cooperate.
And there's plenty of examples of where we need to, like for instance, the Walker Brook culvert that runs under here. One of the concrete sections was built around an 8-inch water main that was traveling 90 degrees to the direction the culvert needed to. And it's been a problem because that is a backup spot in the
Yeah, it probably gets hung up on the water line.
and
The debris bag is gone.
when they ran the camera down there and took pictures of it, I mean, here's your box culvert, and here's going right through the box culvert, a 8-inch water line. So yeah, we all need to work together, there's no question.
And I think the
So
first engineering that we did with the ArcGIS, by laying out the stormwater system, we were able to identify certain section of stormwater that's underneath sanitary sewer pipe, and of course, that's the opposite way you want it. But the point is that as we elaborate and get more information, it's more technically compelling. You see what you have to do. And as we see the strength of having these maps, and we're exercising having all three pieces of information, water, storm, and sanitary, all in the same drawing, I think that it's going to induce a certain increased degree of cooperation and increased levels. And we're just taking the first step here, first baby step, to demonstrate the efficacy, necessity, and advantage of this kind of software.
What tools do we need to go with this software?
None.
Uh,
What are you thinking, Karen?
Like, do we have to get iPads? Do we have to get?
No?
We don't have to get anything. We don't have to
You
get
have to have it.
readers. We don't have to get any type of supplies that go with this at
No.
all for any of the
No.
departments?
Nope.
So exactly what are we using this for? The financial aspect of it?
Yes.
So you want this here for the financial purpose?
I need it
Because
for
the
capital
water
planning.
department has it for its own, for its other purpose.
So We
Is that what
we
you're-
need it to help, we need it to help with the capital planning, so we have the money to help the DPW, is really kind of where it's at.
Yeah, I mean, Waterworth is by and large a planning tool for understanding what capital you need to put into systems and when. And then, you know, coming up with a method of realizing what the effect of that is and how you determine rates.
So my other question is we haven't even, we've got packages, an accounting package, I'm sure, that needs to be updated. Is that correct? Have we looked into that to see what its power will provide us with? If there's your other financial tool. Is that something that, I just feel like because you're dealing with finances and you're inputting all this financial information in, we don't even have an accounting package that's updated yet that might
I mean,
give us some type of,
to get the kind of,
that's what my concern is.
right, but to
'Cause
get
I don't wanna
the kind of
duplicate.
all-inclusive financial package. And the two I can think of off the top of my head are OpenGov and Munis, but there are others. You're probably close to an order of magnitude increase in costs to own and use those softwares. I mean, I think Munis today is about a $75,000 a year contract. School ERP currently is around an $11,000 contract, and if we are forced to go to the software as a cloud, we're looking at bumping that up to around $22K. So it's a huge cost difference. And I'm not sure it has the functionality to do this. It has some budgeting.
I did the reading on OpenGov, and it is capable of doing what Waterworth does, only it doesn't do it as efficiently or as cost effectively.
I think that kind of the part of the question here is if we purchase a piece of accounting software, will the information, without doing hard copies and data entry, push to this? That's kind of the question here. We're buying, it's, when it comes to the software, it's beginning to start to feel like cart in front of the horse. Is what it's beginning to kind of feel like.
So,
It's more of a question as to, the concern is if we go off and buy a piece of software, we want to make sure that our software, good example is we got ourselves our body cams for our police officers, and the body cam, the last time I checked, and I haven't talked to Deanna in some time about it, was that they more or less own the data, and we have to ask them for the data. And that seems to me to be A, rather arduous, and B, it's our information, why do they own it? That's the, and that's where I'm kind of going at with this, is if we get involved with this here, is there going to be an easily searchable way of getting that data if, say for instance, we go away from Uniworth or Waterworth, or pick a name, if we go away from them for whatever reason, could be financial constraints, we could maybe no longer use them for whatever reason, something better came along, can we still keep and maintain that data? Is that data ours or is that data theirs? I guess
But they're-
that's where we're.
With their model is based on data we gave them, and that data still remains with us. So if we went to a different outfit, all of that data is right there in our hands, that we could move to a different system.
So we own the software.
We
No,
don't, we
own the
own,
software.
we own the,
So
we
how
own the
can you
data.
drive it without the software?
Well,
Well, the data we
generated-
provide them with, but any new data is on their system.
Well,
But
that,
there isn't,
Says you
there's
retain
their
ownership of the
calculations.
data you upload and their generated results.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So I think
we,
whatever
any
the
results
results
that
were,
we
we
had,
would
any
be able to take.
reports that we have, that's our property. So anything that we
I don't
were
know
smart
that
enough
it's
to
that
ask them
clear.
and get answers for and
But-
put in report form, we have.
But what they're not gonna do is they're not gonna give a different company their matrix
Right,
and
right.
their back end
Right,
and how they figure this.
right,
You know, you'll
because
have
they
the
own the software,
results
right.
of what you've done, but that's not gonna necessarily do you any good going
Receiving
forward.
generated results based on the data.
the results will be reports, for
Right.
instance, the maps. Would we
They
continue to
actually
own
gen-
the
they-
maps? Would
We own,
would
it's
the
our maps.
Disappear on us?
It's our maps.
Yeah, but
They don't do anything to our maps whatsoever. We do it all. We just feed them the information. As we make modifications, we update our maps, we share it with them.
how do we see it if they're gone?
How do we see
How
the
do we
maps?
get, yeah,
We have, you'll be, all you'd have to do in the future is go on our website, the town website, you bring up the ArcGIS map, and you'll see all 3 layers.
but it's under their software.
No, it's, we share, no, it's our ArcGIS, it's our maps. We allow them to copy it so that they can load that information into their system. And they don't really want the map per se, they convert it over into an Excel spreadsheet. And they use the Excel spreadsheet as their database. And it's done all in an automated way, it's not some guy with a green visor in the back room, scribbling things down and typing it in. They have some way of exporting it
I'm
out.
so disappointed.
I know. Well, you were looking forward to that job, and now you're
Well,
bummed
I just
out.
was looking forward to going in and seeing how that guy was doing each day, and maybe buy him a coffee.
Basically.
There you go.
He's looking
There
again
you
at
go.
financial package and not
It was just a
the
thing.
water, because it sounds
All right.
like, I don't know.
Is this in the budget, the 66?
Nope. Nope,
So we have to figure out a way to pay for it?
yep.
Okay.
But I think that the money we're gonna get back from wisely investing, so we're taking care of problems before they become crises, is gonna save us a lot of money in the long run. Right now, we have 0 planning on our stormwater system. We don't have a stormwater stabilization fund. There's nothing being set aside from it. We try to rob Peter, pay Paul
I
to
thought we saw
do some of
one,
the work. There is no stormwater, nothing.
what was the one
And the
we saw?
stormwater, what we've set up, and some of what you may have read, is in 2029, the sewer stabilization fund will become the stormwater stabilization fund, because the sewer enterprise fund will be fully up and running at that point.
So when you think about sewer, I mean, really, one of the most important things we need to do is figure out how to set our sewer user fees. We're going through that problem right now. We have roughly 4 weeks to finalize it from today. Now, I've given the select board an Excel spreadsheet, which I think is probably close to the final amount. But what a Waterworth does is does a much more elegant. So the majority of our bill is still going to be the IMA with Pittsfield, but we'll be able to calculate that. That will also be in Waterworth, and then Waterworth lays on top of that what are the capital projects that need to be done, and what are all our internal costs. How much we're spending now, because we have both labor costs and indirect costs and materials costs and equipment cost for the sewer department, which is really just a subset of public works. So the question is figuring out how much we're spending on each, and if we need to start taking on capital projects, which we know we do, and some of them are gonna be god-awful expensive, how do we figure out when and where we fund it? What rate do we need to be billing the taxpayer? In other words, to generate money. And if we're starting to bond stuff through the sewer enterprise fund, which we're going to need to do unfortunately whether we want to or not, how do we stagger that and how do we adjust rates to handle the bond payments as well as the Pittsfield IMA, to take the waste as well as our operating expense.
And an additional
That's not
benefit,
trivial to do, and that's exactly what Waterworth was invented to do.
and an additional benefit is not only tells you how much it costs to do it, but if you consider delays, what is the cost of delays?
So the other question is with the capital planning committee, have they figured out what projects need to be done yet? Since it's so new and it's just up and running.
We have,
I would say.
I would say it needs to start there first, let them figure out.
Well, that's
what-
what Waterworth is gonna do. It's gonna allow the stormwater group to sort, judging by what I'm seeing and reading. And it's gonna give that group an opportunity. Once this is up and running, it'll give that group an opportunity to.
But he's
to
only
be able
looking
to
on the
prioritize
financial
those
end of
projects.
it all.
This isn't
This
just
is-
financial.
well, I know, but
Gotta
if
lay it
water-
over with maps.
But Waterworth is already in the water department, they're already using it, correct? Isn't that what was
And
just
that's
said?
good.
Yeah.
It's
And
good
that's
to have
really
it
good.
up there. Yeah.
So this, it sounds like it's all modular based, is that correct?
well.
Do you buy
depends on-
modulars? When I mean, there's a financial modular, there's a water department
Well,
modular, there's
no,
another
I mean, the
modular.
only real thing that is the modular portion of it is when you add new asset classes to what you're paying for. Like year one, we're paying for sewer infrastructure only. With the goal being year two, we now have enough data to plug in and review stormwater also. And then collectively as a town, we'll be dealing with water, stormwater, and sewer, all with the same essentially matrix.
So what's the ultimate, just say, cost of all of, because you know you're gonna end up doing it,
End up doing what?
doing those layovers. So your costs are gonna increase each year.
Well, every time we add something,
Mhm.
our cost per service goes down. So we effectively, are going from, on the town, what we're paying for directly, two things. One will be coming out of, ultimately the cost of Waterworth for sewer is gonna be coming out of the enterprise fund and user fees. And the cost for the stormwater is gonna be coming out
The
of
sewer fees.
the town, finance. So you could see that if you look at year two, where we're doing stormwater, wastewater, both, it's only an extra $1,000. So they're heavily incentivizing us to do multiple things. We're only not doing that from the beginning because we can't handle doing them both at one time, number one. And number two, we don't have enough data to
Right.
give them to prepare an accurate model for stormwater yet. But in about 10 months, or a little less, whenever we get the next round of funding, next round of work that's funded through CEI in, we will have that.
Any other concerns?
I mean, the real question in my head is, without Waterworth, do we have the technical expertise to do that working with the Collins Center without it? And the answer is, I think, probably not. And since that's, if you think about sewer is our biggest single liability, and it's one of the most expensive things we do. Because if, for no other reason than we're gonna be on the hook for $2.1 million annually and growing quickly with Pittsfield. So we already have a background, pretty big cost, and we have lots of structural needs there. So we're gonna be ending up increasing sewer rates or sewer user fees considerably. And I've been saying that since I got here, because it was pretty obvious the first time I looked at, what the problems were with the existing IMA and where we're going, that was gonna happen. And the existing IMA, by the way, has been in place since 1973. It hasn't been updated since then.
Really? I thought they updated it in 90 somewhere.
If they did, neither Pittsfield nor us have any documentation on
Okay,
it.
what is the IMA?
Intermunicipal agreement.
So that's our agreement with Pittsfield for the
That's our
sewer.
agreement with Pittsfield for them to take sewer,
Oh.
and us to do certain things in return. So that's my take on it. You guys can agree or disagree.
So how are we
Or
planning
think
on-
of it a little longer.
How are we planning on paying for it? It wasn't in the budget.
To be honest, we're probably gonna there's two possible ways of paying for this. If we were gonna do a 3-year contract, I would have planned on taking it out of the sewer stabilization fund. If we're only gonna do a 1-year contract, we now have two options. One is sewer stabilization fund, and the second is a reserve fund transfer. So.
I'd rather keep it with what it's supposed to be for.
And depending on how fast we get an enterprise fund up and running, we could potentially assign the cost to the enterprise fund, but I suspect that's gonna take us much of this year to get the enterprise fund up and sorted out. So I don't wanna count on that being available if the enterprise fund was already up and running. We
Well,
just bill it out of the enterprise fund and move on.
Considering that we have increased the reserve fund from 60,000 to 100,000 this year. With it, I have to say, I agreed with it, with the anticipation of things like this coming up this year. It seems to me that we're making some rather large moves all at once. Moves that should have been made long ago. Considering that, it seems like it's all come home to roost at once. Well, not quite the perfect storm, but we're getting close to it. We get started now, we start thinking about getting started now, we may be better off in the short.
What else is gonna come up from the capital plan?
Well,
That's the other side,
you know,
too.
We're sitting right now, we have a culvert that's about to get redone.
Yep.
However, the information that they give us doesn't mean we have to run out and make those repairs either. It doesn't have to happen immediately. But having that information, if, for instance, we get another ARPA or another thing of that nature, if we're sitting there shovel ready, quite honestly, and I can speak from north of 30 years of public service, if you have stuff shovel ready, the politicians both in Washington and on Beacon Hill, they want to spend it yesterday. They don't want the money sitting around. And there's kind of a reason for that. They set it aside, they know it's been set aside, they need to have that zeroed out so they know where they can go, kind of like us, so they can go where they can go to next, is what that is. So, of course, my main concern was some level of duplicity with Street Scan, having an understanding of maybe a Street Scan available, to have a module or whatever.
Well, isn't there,
But it doesn't. And
so what's the roads aspect?
we might be able to pull roads.
That's if we decided to do roads. We're not we're not planning on doing roads, because that does duplicate efforts.
Is that the one where you have on the left page is option 1 and option 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
They were just giving us, showing that they had the ability and what it would cost.
But does it make sense to have them do roads and get
No.
rid of street scan?
No,
No, because they
streets
can't
can-
take the data to update.
they don't give us the data from the streets.
So really to do a reasonable job, what you do is you plan on about a 4-year cycle for street scan. So every 4th year, you scan the roads or you scan the sidewalks, and we would do them in different years.
Okay.
So you establish the baseline, and then that goes in a model, and you say, okay, here's what I have for funding, here's what I need to accomplish, how can I do the best job overall for the network? And it basically, you put in all the data that you have. Like, we have hard costs for reclaim and repave projects. We have hard costs for pave-only projects. Every road's a little different. When you go to RFP, you might not get exactly the number, but since we're using a lot of the bidding contracts from the Franklin County of Governments, which we pay for to access, we have fixed costs per mile or per unit for all those things. So we put that information in street scan, and then we sit down and you start war gaming, and you say, okay, over the next 5 years, if I'm gonna put in this much each year, this is my baseline PCI, pavement condition index for the road, sorry for using the jargon. What can I do to maximize the overall conditions of our roads? In its pavement preservation. In other words, I repaved this road 5 years ago. What can I do now cost effectively to affect the lifespan of that road? Because if you reclaim and repave a brand new road, and you sit there and you do nothing for 15 years, that road is
Shot.
completely shot again. There's some reasons for that. One of them is all states are requiring recycled asphalt product in the hot mix that you get. That's nowhere near as good as what they call virgin pavement, which is virgin stone and liquid asphalt and sand. So given that, what are the things you can do? Because you can't afford to reclaim a road every 15 years. It's, to put it in perspective, we would take, if you wanted to redo all Dalton's roads at once in one paving season, you'd be looking at around a $19 million bond to do that. And if you're taking on a $19 million bond on something, it's got to be less than a 15-year bond, because at the end of 15 years, you don't have a road again. So it's a way to, I don't want to say elegantly, but logically plan out your street work and pavement preservation to get the best bang for the buck. Right now, the pavement condition index on our roads overall is about 48, which is
Out of 100.
ugly out of 100. Yeah. I mean, most towns try to shoot for somewhere between 70 and 78 as their average pavement condition index.
A good example of a pavement is South Street. South Street's about, I want to say, somewhere between, I think it should be 15 to 17 years old. Just to give you an idea of and there's been minimum maintenance done to that. So as you can see, there's many places along that road, manholes and water things.
Yep.
And there's many things, and with good maintenance, if those things don't break, what happens is when things like that break, it tends to migrate out from there. They did it right in front of the house, our house down there. You can see where they did, there's either 2 or 3 patches that they
Yeah.
came in. They planed them out, patched them again, and those patches have been, and they've been there 3 years, 4 years. They haven't moved a bit. so with good quality, and those were what's known as unraveling pavement. So and that's, goes there to clean it. So
Yeah.
just to give you an idea of what can happen in pavement over a relatively short period of time, so.
Yeah, I mean, ballpark, there's 10 or 12 possibilities you can do to maintain a road. From just sealing the crack seals, you know, to the next kind of cheapest thing is chip seal, which many of you are familiar with and probably hate. But it can be done better. You know, I mean, there's an infinite range of possibilities you can do. Street sand gives you the ability to explore all of those possibilities with their costs and figure out
So
what's more.
Waterworth's road version does not the same as street scan then?
No, because
Okay.
they don't have the ability to actually scan.
Okay.
They don't send
Any-
cars out and
So-
scan roads. They're basically an office-based company.
Our
Right.
water sewer comes out of our budget, the water sewer, or is that,
The sewer is, it has its own standalone budget and it is funded with sewer user fees,
correct, okay.
okay? And then, of
So
course,
that's
the
what
water
the town
department
does.
has.
So that's
its
the
own
town.
divvy over there, so that's how that is funded, the water district.
Has
does
their
for our
own.
water.
So we deal with the sewer,
Right, we
Right.
deal with the sewer, they deal
under
with
the
the water.
department.
Yeah, right, that's kinda how that goes.
So if they have the water,
And melt together both the sewer and the stormwater. Those two tend to some degree walk together. Both of what comes out the other end is some level of quote wastewater. I hate to call it that because
Yeah.
stormwater really isn't wastewater. It's just water moving from here to there.
So we're getting-
And we're trying to facilitate.
so we're
it.
getting this package for the sewer,
For now,
As
for
well
this
as-
year.
Well, I would say for sewer, right? Did I get that?
not the
In-
financial,
in
just the
fiscal
sewer, or are
year
we doing
27
financial
is for
and
the
sewer?
sewer.
Yeah.
Well,
Financial and sewer.
when they
I
list
mean-
the things they have there, they're not discrete. Like, we can't just go buy the financial module and do it, because it does nothing. I mean, we're not buying the finance module, I don't believe is separate from the sewer module. They may list those things on there, but they're not really separate items. You know, what are separate items from our perspective is whether we do sewer and stormwater or whether we just do sewer. And our goal for the first year is just to do
Sewer.
sewer.
What's your next goal?
Sewer and stormwater.
You're doing sewer already.
Right.
So.
No, we're
storm-
not doing sewer yet. We're gonna do sewer this coming year.
Mhm.
And the following year, we do sewer and stormwater. And going forward, continue
Doesn't
doing
the-
sewer and
doesn't the
stormwater.
now stormwater, that wouldn't come from the water department?
No.
No.
Stormwater is
us.
DPW.
So that's Public Works. So
DPW?
Public Works does sewer and they do stormwater.
So
And they
next,
do roads.
so next year would be stormwater. This year would be sewer, next year would be stormwater, and then
In
integrate
addition
on
to-
top of it.
Which is $1,000 more.
Yeah,
Right,
per month.
per
Yeah,
year.
Per year.
Per week.
Today.
Let's
So,
see.
yeah,
Per minute.
365 I like that. It's 365 of them in a year. All right. All right. Are
Sometimes.
there any other questions or concerns with relationship to the Muni Worth, Waterworth proposal?
None here.
I should say, contract. All right, I'll entertain a motion for the Finance Committee to endorse this.
Well, Mr. Chair, since I'm part of the, relative to the Stormwater Commission and also the Capital Planning Committee, I have vested interest in this going through. Am I able to still make a motion?
That's actually up to the committee as a whole. The committee is satisfied with you drew up, you worked on drawing this information up. I would suggest that another member give us a motion. You just say so moved.
I can.
Anybody can.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded for the finance committee to approve or to endorse the Muniworth Waterworth software service agreement. Are there any other questions or concerns? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Karen Schmidt is in opposition. Tom's
Do I
in
have
opposition?
to, no,
Oh.
do I have to abstain?
I would say not.
Then I'm for it.
Okay. So we have one in opposition. His name is Ken Schmidt. Thank you. All right, that passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, on to the CEI, Comprehensive Environmental Incorporated.
So this is the monies for phase 2 of the MS4 work that CEI is doing for Dalton. In phase 1, they got a handle on what was going on in our system, suggested corrections, established a broad understanding of our piping system and documented probably 70% of it in terms of its layout. And they also have money set aside in order to do some testing as prescribed by the state. In phase 2, what there's going to be is a lot more detailed engineering of the piping underneath the ground, of the catch basins, manholes, storm drains, the things that are called BMPs, which are swales and other structures that capture rain after storms instead of it having to go into the river. And they're also going to help with creating documentation that we need in order to be in compliance with the state. And when you take a look at this particular document, what you see in red is what is different on this contract versus phase 1. And what you'll see is it's extremely minimal. And basically it's just phase 1 going to phase 2 and the dollar value of it changing. And if you look on page 6, that it changes from Terry to Eric as the signator for the town of Dalton. And then of course, if you go to page, I guess it's page 7, Exhibit A, the scope of services obviously is the scope of services for phase 2, not the scope of services for phase 1. And on page 11, you see the timeline for phase 2, and there you'll see the dimensional data. It's going to take several months, interrupted by a winter where they're going to do paperwork. And then the last page last couple of pages is the definition of the scope items in terms of their cost. Those for phase 2 and what's going to be relegated for phase 3. And the scope of work as detailed on pages 7 through 10 has all been discussed and agreed on by both parties. Timeline has been discussed and agreed on by both parties. And the final schedule of costs has been discussed and agreed on, worked out by both parties.
If anybody doesn't have that copy, I think the copy you handed out, Tom, for whatever reason, didn't have 7 through 10. I have a complete copy I can give you.
Is somebody missing 7 through 10?
Yep. I am, on the copy you gave me.
I can't explain it because yours
Back
7
page,
through
right?
10.
6.
And he's got 7 through 10.
Okay, well, I got shorted a copy then. Not
Well,
a big deal.
do you
because
have-
I brought my own.
Okay, you had one previous.
So there.
Yeah,
So if everybody else has a full copy, then I won't worry about it.
So this one requires iPads and iPhones.
there is one aspect of this project that involves automation of the data collection of cleaning out the storm drains. Cleaning out storm drains is required by the state, And when you clean out a storm drain, it's also required by the state that it cannot be any more than 50% full. And they also require that you document that how full it is. And if somebody is out there in the field working away, keeping a scrap piece of paper and jotting down notes and then hoping to have that information accurately reflect what's going on, becomes a bit challenging, especially since we have 765 catch basins to do each year, and you get 30 days to do them in. So you're taking approximately every 15 minutes, you're moving to another catch basin. So
And you're supposed to,
right. So what this is going to do is they're going to have a dipstick. They're going to drop the dipstick down, and they will be able to mark the twain when it hits the mud. They'll enter that in, and then the system geolocates where it is. So it knows where it is, which particular storm drain you're doing, and you just have to type in the number. It's gone, and it's not in the computer. That information will help with our annual report.
Well, and then you suck it out and you measure the depth
Right. Well,
to the actual bottom. Those are the two pieces of information it needs.
Well, we suck it out to the bottom, but we already know how the depth is because that's part of what CEI does, is at each location they're going to measure the absolute depth of the thing. So all they have to do that day is just measure to the level of the mud. And then that gives them the percent full. So now we have a very accurate report on percent full. We have data that's going to help us when it comes time to redesign a sump. That we, if it's just constantly fuller than we want, we know that we can make it larger, and then that cuts down so we don't have to be there because the law says if it's greater than 50% full, then you have to clean it twice a year.
Right.
And if you have to clean it twice a year, then you have to rent a vacuum truck at $45,000 2 months a year, not 1 month a year, and that's a real pain. So yes, we will have to have one iPad for that purpose.
One or more, I would say probably a couple. wouldn't
There's
we?
only one vac truck.
Yeah, we're only getting one truck, so you only need.
We're getting a vac truck?
No.
No, we rent the vac truck. When we say we got one, we rent a vac truck.
We're not looking to buy a back truck.
Thank you.
Well, we're thinking
But it
maybe two,
isn't-
they're small.
Bloody expensive.
They are, yes, they are.
And
And they cost a lot of money to maintain.
Yes.
$20,000 a year, $25,000 just to rent,
Didn't they
to
try
maintain
buying
them.
one last year?
Didn't you what?
Didn't they try buying one last year?
Yeah,
It's-
the other,
yeah,
yeah.
a couple-
we
Not
yes.
a vac truck.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we shot it down.
yeah, the townspeople, well, we.
Well, that wasn't
voted.
No, we
really,
Yeah,
voted
last year,
against
right?
it,
The
yeah.
townspeople.
that wasn't for stormwater, that was for,
No, it was for
General
stormwater.
backward.
It's for stormwater,
Backward.
certain of it.
It was for the whole thing.
no, they wanted it for the sewer. They wanted a truck with the integrated
Jet.
pump jetter for
They
sewer.
wanted jetter in addition to the standard things, so not only could they do the sumps and relieve that $45,000 a year charge, but also so they could go and take care of sewers as well. It was not just for sewers. It was an integrated piece.
Yeah, it was gonna do both.
Maybe,
That's what
Okay.
the dream was to do both.
that was
Mhm.
before my time.
Yeah, that's what I do have just a couple, it should be pretty easy questions for you to answer. First off, in phase two, you're talking about a camera inspection of the Walker Brook
Yep.
stormwater piping?
Right.
Is that new or is that,
What do you mean by new?
well, wasn't it, you just have a scope of services for phase two. So is visual camera inspection item 2? I don't know what item.
So what that is referencing, there was a camera inspection done by, I guess, Ty and Bond when that initial engineering project was done from Happy Land all the way to the corner of Field Street Extension and First Street. So this is doing the camera inspection from First Street on out to the river. They tried to do retrograde, going from the river back upstream, but when they got to the culvert underneath Main Street, there were so many cobbles that had dropped that it interfered with the robot tractor, whatever you want to call it, getting past those cobbles and up into the pipe. So that was the reason that it wasn't done at that time. So what we're looking at, because questions kind of seem to continually pop up, what's the size of the pipe, what's the condition of the pipe, is it leaking, is there sewage coming, all that kind of stuff. It was decided and approved by the select board to do that section of pipe. And it was restricted because it's $15,000 a mile to do camera work. So we cut it to half a mile, $7,500 to just put that piece of concern to bed.
Oh, okay, so the piece of concern has been done.
No, the piece of concern hasn't been done. The Happy Land to that corner has been done, and we know what it is, and everybody's happy with it. But going from that corner on out to the river by past the post office, that hasn't been done, and that's the piece that we're planning on
That's the
scoping.
piece phase 2 is gonna take care of.
Roger that.
Okay, I thought that's what it said, I just wanted to.
Yep, no worries.
Make sure we had clarity there.
Yep.
Okay.
And this is budgeted. This is fully baked into the budget already.
Yep, approved at the town meeting.
Already, the Stormwater Commission had already kind of negotiated what they wanted phase 2 to be in part to keep up so that a year from now, we can do a better job of putting that into our capital planning. And
So this 118's in there, we've already built.
118's in the budget.
It's already in the
it's
budget.
already fully there. So this is money that's already been allocated for this project,
Okay.
for phase 2 of this project.
Are we happy with the work the contractor's been doing? Looks pretty good to me.
Very solid. They've been very upfront, very direct, very honest. If they said, well, in fact, they came back to us and said, you know, the scoop is that you only really have 24 outlet points that you have to do via wet weather testing, and you put in 50. So that's going to give you an extra, pick a number, $15,000 or so more. So you can apply that to doing more piping and more catch basins. So you'll see piping and catch basins are item 3. So if we get another $15,000, it's going to basically wipe out phase 3's budget allowance. We won't have any phase 3 for $15,000. So that's going to drop the monies we need for phase 3 down to $21,000. But it's that kind of honesty constantly. We need a little bit more for this. Can we do this and put that off? We can, we'll work on. It's just a very collegial kind of system.
Is there any training for this, for the individual who'll be doing this?
Training to do what, please?
Training when they go to the sewers, the DPW, when they
To dipstick?
dipstick and all that, I don't know, I'm just asking.
I imagine there'll be a little bit of training to how do I use the iPad, how do I turn it on, and how does this application come up? But
being
most people are
smart.
familiar with cell phones, and it's probably not going to be too much trickier than that. In fact, a cell phone is an alternative to the iPad.
So the program's on the iPad?
It would be. And it could be an app. I'm sure that it could be created as an app and put on a cell phone. I know.
So the person will be trained on the program?
It would be just how to it's like trained on an app. It's not sophisticated like training them on Excel or something.
Does the 118 include the equipment?
No.
Not that it's gonna be a lot, but
Yeah,
I just
I
didn't
don't
know if that was
the answer to that
included.
question.
I don't believe so.
Are we planning a designee for the measuring and monitoring of this? Are we planning a designee from our DPW, or are we gonna have a private contractor doing the work?
DPW.
Okay, that's fine.
See, here's the scoop.
That's
When
good.
you send the thing around, you always have to send at least 1 or 2 DPW employees with them. So you're just basically tasking one of those 2 employees to maintain the iPad and dipstick every culvert.
Okay.
After they pull the grate off and before they start poking it.
Okay,
Um,
that's what I was curious about. And just to let you know, I'm
And
doing
there's no-
everything in my power to keep stuff out of that DI that's right in front of my house.
Excellent.
Okay, just like.
So we have to buy, do we have to buy an iPad or do we have an iPad already?
I don't know that we have an iPad.
Okay,
Um,
that's why
Yeah,
there's a
Department of Health
question.
had one for a little while.
No, they're not expensive, but I just didn't know if we needed one or two, or,
I think
you know, I don't know what we need for this.
Bud is hoping that they can put it on his cell phone. And if we can put it on his cell phone, great. If we can't, it's gonna be an iPad, and it's gonna be a single iPad, and it should do the trick.
I would encourage an iPad,
Yeah, I would too.
maybe keeping it designated for that purpose. You know, and I'm sure there's gonna be other purposes
And other
with
people may,
relationship
yeah,
to,
there may be one
with other,
more.
like if you go to a catch basin, something that they can do, when they're dipsticking the thing, is the thing falling in? Yes, it is. Write that down. Do you follow me when it comes to that? And if we've got a catch basin that's collapsing, let's put it on a list and maybe set a contract out
Put
to
notes on it.
fix 30 or 40 of them at any given time. Then that would be
Yeah, if-
far more cost effective, in my opinion, to fix 30 of the things.
When they go and measure the dimensions of all the 765 catch basins in town as part of this project, they're also gonna do a status assessment, and it'll be recorded, so we'll know how to prioritize our catch basins for repair.
So are they gonna put, so the other question is that it gonna go towards, when they go to buy this equipment, as little as it is, it's gonna go towards their budget? Or is this something we have to,
You know, that's kind of
It'll probably be in DPW's
do budget? Okay.
Bud can absorb
Yeah,
that.
I wasn't sure if we're gonna need to do something different.
yeah.
Okay,
Right. Are there any other questions concerning the CEI contract, consulting services contract?
I don't have any.
Yeah. Okay. I'll entertain a motion for the Finance Committee to endorse the CEI Comprehensive Environmental Incorporated Consulting Services Project.
so moved.
So moved.
Second.
And we have a second, so we have a motion made and seconded for the, to endorse the Comprehensive Environmental Incorporated Consulting Services contract. All those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
All those opposed, all those abstaining, it's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
All right.
everybody, appreciate the support.
Let's see if we can kind of get through a few of these policies. Eric, how would we like to start going through the policies?
So I gave you the background on each policy the last time, so I don't really wanna go through each one.
Nope.
Does anybody have any specific questions on any policy or any particular policy you wanna start with? Let's start with that, and then go from there. Because at this point, I don't know what questions you have, so it's hard to say what questions I can answer or not.
So a general, I guess, question comment I have is a lot of the policies have like language of we'll try to make our kind of our best efforts. Strongly preferred, shall strive. So it's, to me, it's not like hard language of this is what we're gonna do. And then I didn't really see anywhere where there's any sort of tracking or like metrics tracking of reaching some of these goals of, there's talk about being, 6 to 9% of the operating budget for this, have 12% of the operating budget in that, targeting putting $200,000 a year away.
Sure.
But there is no place where any sort of report is going to be presented to say how we're doing and measuring to reaching those goals. So that was a concern that I had overall. And then I do have some.
So that one I can answer fairly quickly, and that as part of the budget process, you get a complete accounting of everything that's in our stabilization funds and free cash. So you have that.
But we'll
Kind of to
kind of
start
have
with.
like, so you're not necessarily doing math, but like if, one is 12% operating budget, so then we know that that is $1.3 million, just throwing out numbers. So will there be some sort of table that says, okay, this is our target, this is where we're at, this is the deficit, or we have to kind of,
If that's what you want, I'm happy to provide that.
okay. I think that would be helpful to kind of.
Yeah, I would be building that for myself anyway.
Okay,
So sharing it with you is certainly not a burden.
okay.
Yeah, would that be something we should probably incorporate into this, into the policy, provide a, I think we already have it. It's right here, budget goals and objectives.
I think it's pretty generic, and there's nowhere I saw that there would be a specific kind of document.
I think in many communities, these are just sort of guidelines. These are not strict, you're in trouble if you don't follow the rules. And I think in many communities, these things sit on shelves and they aren't actually used. What I've just done when I've designed these is try to make them usable, try to make them something that it's in language that more than just accounting people can understand. So people will pull this off the shelf and use it as a reference to help decide that, a course of action. And many times some of these things are aspirational and we try our best to get to them, but we don't have to get them. There is one where we have, and I think it's in the free cash stabilization funds and reserve fund policies toward the back, table 1, where you have target balance. If you aren't at 12% of your tax levy, there's nobody that's going to be sent to their room without dinner. That's where you kind of want to be, and what you're given is this is how much money I'm going to put in there to help myself get to those goals. But I'm a living, thriving, heart-beating town, so I'm going to be constantly having needs, and I'm going to be drawing from it. I'm going to be sucking that down in the course of trying to build it up. So what it ends up being is this is just a clean example of where this stuff is aspirational, and a lot of these other things, less obviously, are similarly aspirational. And I think it's good to have an idea, how we've tracked on the year, what our percents are, and share that in, to say, the annual report. But in terms of, how we've done over the last 15 years, I don't know that it's as instructive as spending the time trying to we're worried about, our budget being right where it needs to be, our capital plan needing to be where it needs to be, and that we've set up our debt as best we can and so forth. Just as a contrasting view of how to interpret some of these things.
Right, but I think if you don't have some sort of concrete numbers, it's hard to make decisions within these guidelines if you don't know where.
Well, part of it's going to be, how much money do we have? You might have, you may dream and want and beg and pray that you can put $200,000 into the capital stabilization fund, but if there's things that are beyond your control, you're going to fall short. And is that a failing? No, it's responsible government. We met what we needed to do. There was an emergency, there was a need. We answered the need, and so that's why it can't be as firm as you might like it to be. I mean, I'm as an engineer of 30 years, man, I love things being. If it says 7, it's 7. But it's in a little bit softer, fluffier world here in municipal world, and so it's hard to actually get to those hard numbers.
Yeah, a lot of numbers don't.
But
Yeah,
I can
the numbers
certainly
don't, yeah.
give you, on an annual basis, a chart that says where we are in all our funds.
It just would be nice to
Relative
know.
to our target.
I understand the non-concrete and how you don't know emergencies, but if we're making a policy to target, we should know where we are in that target, because if we're way off in left field and we keep approving things, we're gonna end up in financial challenges. I'm completely aligned with having all these funds to budget different things, but then we should also kind of either come up with percentages that we're comfortable with, or at least like have something in writing so that we can reference it when we're approving big projects.
Because if we
Because we might have to say, you know what, this doesn't align with our policies, we have to put it off a year or two because it doesn't make financial sense. It's a nice to have, but it,
But that's what the capital planning committee does every year.
which is a brand new committee, and we should be having some sort of number so that you
In
can make decisions.
each year, what the balance on each of the stabilization funds is published in the annual report.
But you're also saying here, special stabilization funds
Well-
should look at a minimum of 21%, when we might not be able to hit that target.
One of the things.
We're well aware of that. I mean,
So do we put a percentage in at all? Just not put a percentage in?
It's a target, it's a goal, it gives us, it's a guide,
But
it's
then
not.
it sounds like we're saying, well, stuff comes up, so it doesn't really matter, so.
Well, then put a goal here.
well, it does matter. In the reason it matters, part of what matters is maintaining sufficient reserves to deal with emergency situations. You know, in the reality is that there's a bunch of different targets for different things. I mean, if you start back to what the overarching principle comes from the GFOA, which is the Government Accounting and Finance, I don't know what the rest of the acronym is, but it's one of the major kind of like policy bodies that municipalities are beholden to. And essentially what they say is at a minimum, at a bare minimum, the town should have 2 full months of its total operating expenses in cash, in the bank, available for emergencies. And there's a bunch of reasons why. You know, one is a natural disaster that's specific to Dalton where we're not gonna get a FEMA declaration. You know, or, you know, we have a major rupture of the water pipe on Main Street, you know, and we're replacing a half a mile of that and we're spending $7 million. Well, we don't have enough money for that anyway, but at least we have a good chunk of it. So if you start with the concept that the minimum you need on hand is roughly 17% of your total operating budget, and that's the bare minimum, and a responsible town tends to run somewhere between 25 and say 30% total in reserves. That's what a well-managed town plans on having.
Well-managed town plans on having. The other side of it is that you don't know you don't know at any given time. You've got to think about where your funds all come from.
Where
They
are
come
we?
from the government, they come from the people.
Mm-hmm.
So we never know in any given year where our tax base is. We know what our tax base is going to be, but we never know where the income comes in that. Because that in itself can fluctuate because maybe some people can't pay their taxes that year. So it's always, it's a moving target. I get what you're saying, but
Let's kind of, let's.
Can we
back
just-
up
all right,
to
I've
the-
just-
So is there a particular policy you want to focus on first? And let's go.
I guess what I've been attempting to get at is, first and foremost, the accounting that you're speaking to. That accounting will take place during the annual budget process, this policy here. This policy, when we attempt to do this policy, we begin to do this policy, we're going to be checking this policy. So they all kind of are going to end up ultimately working
Right.
together. So when we provide a budget to our constituents, all right, we have to make sure, as a finance committee, that we haven't, once we've come to numbers, and we haven't come to that yet, but say, and I'm just gonna say, for instance, we come up with 5% of general stabilization. We can't complete this policy until we've made sure that this number's been satisfied as best we can. They aren't hard and fast numbers, but that would be our method of reporting, would be to back check as we go through this process. That's what the finance committee does. As we go through this process, that's how we'll, to have an accounting with relationship to a policy, I would think might be a little difficult.
because it's a moving target.
Right, but
Right.
there, but
Can we just say
I see,
then,
I get what you're saying.
But
we-
this is like, it's a guideline, so you can
Right.
say,
so,
we are targeting 12%, we're at 2%, and now we wanna take more money out of this account. Maybe we need to say no to this because we are way off of our target. But
Are we getting
Being
to-
That
new
would
to,
be
being
that.
new to the finance, I don't even know what,
Right.
like, to
Well-
look at this, when you look at those percentages, do these accounts like currently have, 8% of the 12? Do we have 6% of the 9? Do we even know, are we even
Well,
close?
that's part of us establishing these policies. That's
So-
why we're here. That's what this discussion is honestly all about. Is we have to decide as a group, we have to decide what is this group with information from our town manager, information from hopefully off in the future, maybe, from the Collins Center, what recommendations are from DOR and DLS. Would they provide us with information, say, our financial overseers, they say to us, look, you need to have, you have to put, I keep looking at these numbers. You have to put 10% per year of your budget, and I'm just using that as an example. 10% per year of your, actually free cash should go toward stabilization of one kind or another. And the percentages set us up, then we take a look at during the budget process, prior to our, I think it's our first meeting, at any rate, when we do our capital planning meeting, that's when we have to look at it and say, okay, we've satisfied this. Or if we haven't satisfied it, the finance committee chair should write in their report. That would be my report, and Eric and I would sit down and kind of produce this thing. It would have to be a report that says, we were unable to because of this. We were unable to do this, but we were able to do this. And that would show up probably, that would be I think, just, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that what report that you're talking about would show up for the people from the finance committee chair. Am I on target with what you're thinking of or not?
So if you want an annual Excel spreadsheet that shows you what the targets are relative to the current budget for each year going forward, and like what we have in the account, what the target is, what we're anticipating putting in this year, I have no problem with that. I've done essentially that for my last count.
Because I'm interpreting this as like, these are almost like savings accounts.
That's exactly what this
And
is.
this is what so then, I would think that it would behoove us to know what a target is, and obviously it's gonna change, because every year the operating budget goes up, so all that's gonna change, but we should know if we're headed towards that target or not, and if we,
So
Are
rewording
way-
it maybe? Reword it differently?
As an
Might be better?
example,
Like right here, I've got the town shall endeavor to build a goal each year. Maybe just a little simple wording.
or
And then you said 17%. Put 17% as a start,
It
as a
wasn't
goal.
necessarily the language, it's just
Yeah.
I didn't see anywhere where we were going to be reporting or tracking this stuff.
I think that the liability account, the legal liability account, is a perfect example, or litigation stabilization fund. Stabilization fund is fully funded at the moment. So this year, we diverted monies away from that we would normally put in there, to other funds. And that's an example that we are actually monitoring it and responding to what we see as deficits.
Okay,
Who came up with the percentages?
Right,
Who came up with those percentages for each of the accounts?
That was,
What were they
those
all
were
based
done.
off of?
Those numbers were developed off of what was existing and where we need to apply monies in our future. And that came from the town accountant, the town manager, and myself.
so like, for the capital equipment stabilization, it says 1% of tax levy, which I'm assuming is the operating budget, it's one and the same.
Yeah, the whole operating budget.
So that would be 116,000 is 1% of, because we just approved 11,600,000, I believe, if I'm looking at things right.
No, we approved 23 million.
Is that with the school?
Yes, the total budget.
Well, no, the tax levy's only like 17 million, 16 million, something like that.
Okay, so that's different than the operating budget.
Correct.
Well, when you say operating budget,
Because the tax levy covering the school budget too then?
Yeah, the
The
tax levy
intent of the
covers
term
everything.
operating budget in these policies is the town operating budget, which is
So
the
when this-
11,600,000 you're
Right, so
referring
then the
to.
tax levy is also going to, so is that based off of the operating budget or what we're raising in taxes to also cover the school budget?
Yeah, it includes both.
But is that what these percentages should be based off of then?
Yes, and I'll give you the reason for that, is collectively, our piggy bank is the stabilization funds. You know, normally you think of just the general stabilization fund as the emergency reserve. However, I don't wanna have 25% of our annual budget sitting in, well, I'd love to have it sitting in general stabilization fund, but I don't think that's realistic, because I don't think we can get there through taxation. So what I'm saying is that overall, combining the stabilization funds, if we ever got all of them to their target balances, financially, we would be in great shape as a town, because it would give us, you know, a significant cash reserve to deal with any emergencies.
So-
Because you as a Board of Finance can raid any of these funds with the permission of town residents to deal with any true emergency.
So you're looking for, out of the operating budget, you're looking at taking 23% and divvying up the 23%. That's basically what these, that's what these all, that's what these all add up to, is
So it's not-
23%. So
yes,
you're
but it's-
asking 23% of that number.
Oh, but it's up
The
to
total,
tax
the
levy.
total is 33.
Yeah, 33%.
The bottom 5 add up to 21% plus the 12%.
But it's 33% of the tax levy, not
Not the
the
budget,
total, not the budget.
so it's more.
But the tax levy is, you know, all but, say, $8 million, $7 million of our budget. So that basically gets you to your 23%.
33, am I adding wrong, sorry.
On page 7 of that particular policy
That's a
table,
lot, 33%.
the target thing's confusing me a lot, and I'm not really feeling that. But the minimum annual appropriation to the fund.
Which page are you on?
I have a.
Seven.
Same.
Page 7, I actually have, I actually have kind of an objection to making it a minimum amount. I think we should maintain the minimum annual appropriation to the fund. It just, that seems to, even though we can deviate from each policy, it seems to me that would kind of pin us into,
And is that being
back us
raised,
into a corner.
is that being
That's my
raised
fear.
through taxes, or is this being
Well,
transferred?
same thing of levy.
It's levy.
You
Just-
get it
So,
through
to
levy.
be honest, at the moment, we have enough free cash to do it. But I actually think that's kind of lousy budgeting. Because essentially what we're doing when we're generating lots of free cash is overestimating our costs and way underestimating our reserves, or what we are going to bring in. So, at the end of the year, we have this pot of money we can spend on other things. I actually think it's a lot more responsible to right from the beginning build into the budget what our capital costs are gonna be and what our funding of the stabilization
So we're
funds
not
are
over
gonna be.
taxation.
So,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep,
and you
it'll-
tell people, we are putting money into this and here is the reason why.
So you're putting a line item for the savings account in the
Correct.
budget,
De facto,
Eventually, yeah,
but that's not what we,
correct.
that's not
so
what we had
then
to do.
technically, you know, so this 100,000 would be the line item for the general stabilization fund, in the future for the budget.
It depends how much we make in free cash
But
in
in
any
theory,
given
this is
year.
what you're thinking, is that
Yeah,
on
if
a
I could
future
get free cash
budget,
down to zero, sure.
this
We'd
would
do
be
that.
a line item,
Mhm.
and then the 200,000 would be a line item, and it would be explained as the budget that this year, this is what we're putting in our savings account.
Yep.
Okay.
But remember too, when we say savings account, think of them to some extent as savings and spending account. Like, what did we do this year? We created a road improvement stabilization fund. We put $200,000 into it with one of the articles, and then we immediately essentially put another article in that says from that stabilization spend, we're gonna spend $115,000 this year to supplement road work. So the goal is to put a uniform amount of money in each stabilization fund each year. And the reason is what taxpayers hate the most, other than paying taxes in general, which I get, is spiky budgets. Up one year, down one year, oop, this year we're gonna buy, a big widget for public works, so now we got another $500,000 capital request. What I prefer to do across the board is put money in the stabilization funds and say, that's what we have available. So if Bud comes to me and says, I need a plow truck, I look at it and I say, okay, you need a $300,000 plow truck. We don't have $300,000 in the capital equipment stabilization fund, so you're not getting it. By next year, we'll have $300,000 in that fund. We'll approve it next year.
So that kind of brings me back to what I was saying earlier then, of having targets and how we are meeting these targets, so that when someone comes and says, I need this money, we can then look at this target and be like, we're not at the target, you need to wait, another year, because we don't have enough money.
I mean, that's generally how these work, but at the same time, there always has to be some flexibility built into the system, because you don't know what you're gonna get. I mean, maybe we walk in next year and we get, 2 or 3 other big lawsuits against the town of Dalton.
Oh, please.
Well, I mean, we're gonna drain an awful lot out of the litigation stabilization fund, and then we're gonna have to build it back up. And it's gonna be more than 50,000 in any given year,
Yeah, a lot more.
So, so
It's gonna wipe out.
one of the things that I didn't, and maybe it's somewhere else, have we made decisions on maintaining base stabilizations and reserve fund in our policies? Is that something we should have in our,
Like a minimum balance?
Yeah, like a minimum balance in each stabilization. Is that something that we should strive for within our policies? We have percentages to put in. We have really great information, and I agree. I'm always a little, like I said, when it comes down to specific numbers, I'm only skeptical with specific numbers in that it can, my fear is that it's gonna paint us into a corner. That's the only reason for that, is my fear is
I don't think it should be
that
hardline numbers, but just
And I-
guidelines to help make
These are and
decisions.
true, these are policies. So in that case, that being the case, then, and it should be,
So let's
Much
play,
as I hate
let's
to
play
admit it.
devil's advocate. Right now, you're the Board of Finance. You have no financial policies whatsoever about anything. How are you rationally making decisions about what you're doing?
We base it on the 5-year
5-year what?
report that we
use our
done.
5-year spreadsheet.
spreadsheet
Roll
on
back.
every, on
To
every,
look back, 5-year look
we
back.
we have a 5-year look back
Okay.
on every single line item.
So why how are you deciding what should be in the stabilization fund now?
Well, after we go through our budget process, then we see what we have that we're able to put, and that we refer to Sandy a
Well, yeah,
little bit
we
on
usually-
that.
Yeah, that's kind of how it works, and this is exactly why we're building policies.
Mhm.
It's just for the reason we're talking about right now. You can hear the confusion that surrounds it. basically, we look at what we have, what we need, and base our decisions on that. And it's not a very exacting science, but it's been able to get it done. However, over time, it's gotten us backed into a corner, so to speak. So that's kind of my concern, is if we, I'd hate to set ourselves up to back ourselves into the corner that we are backing ourselves into now. We've always tried to maintain certain levels in our stabilization accounts.
But on what basis?
Well, that's, I wanna say we had some numbers, they were percentages of, was it the value, I'm trying to remember, it was the value of the community, the value of the community as a whole. I seem to recall that's what it was, but we're digging back into some pretty old memories there, as to how we were trying to maintain this information, or to maintain this level. And instead of relying on some old guy's memory, it's probably better to have it written down as to what percentage should these stabilization accounts be in relationship to the value of the entire town? Should it be in relationship to the value of an overall budget? Those are the real questions with relationship to these stabilizations and such.
Right, and so I start with the premise that as a town, an ideal, well-managed town has about 25% of its total annual operating budget in its piggy bank somewhere. Now, like in Connecticut, they want you to have it in a specific spot. But we've always said, okay, because we know we have the flexibility, because for you to take money out of any of these funds requires a town meeting, so it doesn't matter whether you subdivide. So you certainly don't need all the money in general stabilization. You can have some of that percentage in other stabilization funds. And then the secondary question is, what is your burn rate per department and per fund? And for instance, if you take a public works capital equipment fund, that is based on a 15-year burn rate. You look at 15 years and you take the 15-year plan that Bud and I developed, which is basically say, okay, given the equipment that public works need to function and the effective lifespan of that equipment and the current value of that equipment, that says that, over a 15-year period, we're gonna spend, throw out a number, $1.5 million in equipment. Well, to level fund that, you have to put $100,000 a year into that and then index it each year for inflation. And if you do that overall, over that 15-year period, you will collect the same amount as you need to spend. And that's really kind of the basis. And ideally, you do it for every asset you have. You do it for bridges, you do it for culverts, you do it for roads, you do it for,
Underground piping.
every bit of underground piping. For roads, you say, okay, what is my target PCI? What do I think is acceptable to the residents of Dalton? And then you work back from there and you say, okay, if I'm at a 48 now, and I know I really need to get to a 75, and I'm not gonna do it in 1 year, I'm gonna try to do that. I'm gonna try to get the road network in good shape over about the next 20 years. So 20 years from now, we have good roads. And then you back out what the annual costs are, and that's what you try to set aside. Now, once you develop all those, then the reality check comes in. You know what you need to put into it, but sometimes you can't. And if you can't, then you need to prioritize and say, okay, given the financial conditions we are, okay, we're not gonna get to a PCI of 72. We're gonna accept much crappier roads than that. And we're gonna start using much lower cost techniques to maintain the road because that's all we can afford. So it's kind of an iterative
And
process.
then at any
that
given
way.
time, you've got What am I trying to think of? When you go for grants, that's another thing
Yeah,
that incorporates into all of that. It's really where all your resources and your income comes from. Really.
right, but this is the basic underlying policies of the town that are needed for the capital planning portion. There's gonna be a lot more policies being thrown at you over the next 6 months. Probably about 20 total, which are kind of the key policies that towns have. And if you wanna look at what the DLS recommends for policies, you can go on Division of Local Services and look that up and get theirs. If you search a little bit, you can see
God
what
bless.
the Collins Center recommends for policies. We're not creating these out of whole cloth. We're stealing these from other entities and
Borrowing.
just modifying them to be specific to Dalton.
Right, that's the way we should do it.
Yeah, I have a
That
question.
goes without saying.
I have a question for you, Bill. With these policies, do you feel, although they're not perfect, that it brings you a significant step closer to having a structure that can help be decent guidance to what we do and how we move in the future, especially if we recognize that every year or two, we're gonna go through and edit stuff that we find really does not work?
I think the key word is guidance.
Mm-hmm.
It's not set in stone, it's just a
Yeah,
guide.
these are just a guide for our department, for our committee.
Yeah.
It's more of a guideline.
Well,
So anybody coming
But
in,
it's for a lot more than you.
Yes.
These set the guardrails for me. These set the guardrails, the financial policies as a whole, set the guardrails for the town. In the attempt to put on paper the procedures and the things that you're actually doing and you're actually trying to do. Because as a town, we don't document anything. And what's shocking to me is coming through and reading our annual audits, is that we have not gotten hammered by our auditor. Because certainly, any auditor in
You
Connecticut
don't see
auditing a municipality that doesn't have a set of financial policies in place is gonna take a significant audit finding, being that the town does not have any financial policies.
well, that's
in
the other
place.
sad thing, we never see an audit. We have never seen an audit. Not that I'm aware of. Have we seen an audit?
No.
We have never seen an audit.
I have one, I fished it out. Made a fish.
But we've just never seen one.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
I mean, that's before my time, but.
No,
No, I'm just saying to you, I'm just saying to
These
you
are
that
part of
these
the
are part of
policies
our
that we
things
need.
that we've never,
Yeah.
so we can't,
To answer your question, I can't answer your question because there was a ghost before this showed up. Now it's a shadow. So let us continue to work on these and get them where we need to get them, is the important thing. We had nothing. When I started here, we had nothing. And I must admit, I've been winging it.
Right,
That's the only way you can do this. You
Right.
can't just, there's no, you kind of go by the guideposts that you've been dealt with and you work with it. So these are helpful and they're headed in the right direction. I was hoping that we would at least get a couple of these done tonight, but we've gotten into a bit of quicksand and, which is actually good quicksand. Can how do we, I guess the guidelines, it seems to me the verbiage that's within this is fine. When it comes to the stabilizations and that, the only,
Are we talking about table one?
yeah, the free cash stabilization funds and reserve fund policies. Let's just go with that one for this moment. And on that one, to speak to your question on some level of reporting, are we doing it? That should actually be a function of the finance, I would say, a collaboration between the finance committee chair and the town manager. that should be a portion that we might wanna put that in this. Like, for the annual town meeting, under this reserve policy, maybe we should add some language at the end of this, or wherever it fits. I have no idea where to fit it, but should report the health and welfare of the stabilizations. Is that,
Oh,
So report it to whom? Report it to whom?
well, report to the
I would
townspeople.
think that the townspeople and,
Annual report.
Well, we put that in the annual report.
is it the balance or is it just how much you were contributing over?
No, I thought we had the balance of the stabilization fund. It's possible we don't.
And the balance
It just
is
so happens.
good, but then these targets are new, so it's good to know where we are.
The targets are a tweak on what has been existing.
Okay.
They're not new.
Well, I'm new to the committee and these policies are new, so, and if we
Right.
haven't had policies prior,
Let's
then
see.
I would think
They're new.
They're
I get
new.
it. I get it.
So, the report of the
bonding
finance
is
committee,
based on
and
something else,
just to let
isn't
you know, when I write
Better
this
the town's
report,
bonding rate, the lower the
when
interest rate is,
I
I
write
think
this
the more
report,
the town
it is about as organic as it gets.
So how does the bonding rate come?
We talk a little bit about what goes up and what goes down, and then basically, at the end of the report, and we actually, this year, do you have this year's?
Yes.
It's May 2026, the date, May 4th, 2026? Yeah. So, when you get into this, it talks about the budget and the schedule of compensation. So, I would, within the body of my report here, at some point, I would say probably third or fourth paragraph, write about it.
Here's what we put in the annual report.
Ah, there you go.
So is this the balance?
These guys are the balance.
Okay,
What's in
so,
there now and what's,
And these things need to be reported. They need to be reported to the people. As you're
Right, but-
speaking.
but there's no place that says this balance is this % of our tax levy.
because we had no policies when that
Right, so
document
there,
was
but there
created.
is no policy in here that says we are going to track specifically where we are to our target. Is the point I'm making.
So if you
Okay.
look in the policy called Annual Operating Budget Process, page 4, item 6, just before procedure, annual budget document, we can make item H, stabilization fund balances versus target. And that will then become part of the annual budget document.
I don't know.
And that
Where
will
are you
reflect
seeing
what
this?
Say
we're
that
currently
again.
doing.
Tom, say that again.
This is the
Different-
annual operating budget
was
process,
different.
Yeah,
page 4,
Page
item
4.
6.
So adding a line here.
In number 6, you have A through G.
Paragraph four.
If you add H, it can say stabilization fund balances versus targets. And then that gives you what you want. And that also reflects what we're currently doing. And that's what these policies are supposed to do. Say what you do and then do what you say. Not a problem. Done.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Yeah, this policy sets what you're supposed to do. This policy says what you did. I think that's what you're getting at.
Each of these policies is supposed to say what you say, this indicates what we do, and then subsequent to approval of the policy, we try to do what we
well, you
say.
gotta be kidding.
So
And that's how they cross-reference, so there's
I
gonna be a
mean,
lot of
that's what policies
cross-referencing.
do.
Yeah, and some of the terminology
Yeah,
is different across
yeah.
the whole process.
So, anyways, kind of circling back.
So if you want me to generate a table that shows where we are currently with all the stabilization funds relative to what that target balance would be, I can get that to you in the next couple of days. That's not a problem.
So how would we use that each year going in then? Would that table change every year?
Well,
Yeah.
it would
And our
adjust
policy,
because
we'd have to
your
update that
budget-
policy
Well, I don't know
every
if you'd
year.
update
No, we
the
don't have to tell,
percentages.
the percentages don't change, but the absolute numbers
But we
would.
can get a better idea of
policies-
percentages.
The goal here is, we're trying to set a policy, all right? We're not trying to set how we report, not that we'll set in over here. But when it comes to the stabilization funds, we need to set down what our targets need to be. That's what we, first and foremost, let's start at the basics. What we need to decide is, and this is including Eric and all others, is we need to start out with what are our targets going to be? Historically, and this is something I don't know if Eric's had time, I have not, to look at historically, what do we earmark toward general stabilization with relationship to our operating budget each year? What percentage? And right now, we're fortunate enough to be able to do that and not affect the operating budget through free cash. But in order to maintain them the way we maintain them, we need to target that amount of money. We know the budget's hopefully not gonna go up that much each year, so we can, I suppose we can put a target amount. Maybe we can call this the target, instead of saying, it says target in the beginning, minimal annual appropriation target. I'm not fond of that, but anyway.
It's a
Well,
target.
what is it?
It's acknowledging
It is
that
being
we, in
target,
any
yeah.
one year, we may not be capable of putting in the minimum.
Right, so that, what we need to do is we need to establish, the verbiage seems to be fine within this from what I can read, but it seems to me that we need to come up with a way to establish these numbers here, the percentages and the target amounts. And at least, and then that allows me to go, when we go off to our reports later on, we can say, okay, this is what we did, and it should be, maybe a reference within this policy, reference this policy to this policy. Do you follow me?
There are references between policies to other policies, those already
Yeah,
exist.
that would be,
But I would propose that what we do is take a look at that table, and this is a first cut, and you
absolutely.
cannot come out of the box perfect on the first round. So if we were to take what we have here, recognize and highlight areas where we want to pay special attention over the course of the next year, and then with greater insight, having paid attention over the course of the year, refine those numbers, I think that's a perfect approach. Because I think that we could spend a tremendous amount of time, and I don't know that we're going to get much yield beyond where we're at. But with data from a year's experience, I think we will be able to more easily, more quickly, and more accurately upgrade these numbers. Probably still not perfect, but in a step in the right direction.
I agree with you. Because this isn't, it's a target. It's not set in stone that you have to meet that target. We're saying it's an estimate of where we feel we should be. And that
Correct.
estimate can change based on what our experience is.
Right.
This is the first time around.
Percentages can change too.
Yeah,
Right. There's nothing that stops
it's
us.
the first time
Well, I
around,
agree.
so we're
But to
We're
dampen
doing an
things so they don't go
estimate.
too wild, if we do it, after years of a year's experience and say, okay, we could see that this is just a little too low, just
It's
a little
like,
too high,
whoops, yeah.
and then tweak it in one direction or the other. That's fine.
We can get a 5-year run on that, can't we? That's not hard. What our stabilizations have been over the past 5 years.
See why not? Well,
Should all be in the annual report.
Reports, right,
Yeah.
they'd all be in those.
So it's all kind of there.
And that'll give us an idea of what
Yeah.
what our numbers are over the years, and it'll give us a general idea of what the percentages
recognize
would be.
how much each year we put into the various stabilization
Relationship.
with relationship to the tax levy. Not from where we've been getting the money. The amount that because they've been relatively comfortable amounts. We've been able to
Been
do that.
fortunate, yeah.
So we've been fortunate. But we need to understand that, let's not think about where we're getting it. Let's think about how it relates, and that's what this policy is doing, is getting us to relate it to how we relate to our operating property.
I think that tonight's discussion has been very constructive. I think that what we've done is we've examined this document and we've highlighted areas where we have points of sensitivity. And I think that that can sharpen our eyes to the following year. And we can refine those numbers because we're going to be paying special attention to them. And in a year's time, we can have them better to where they need to be, if they need to change. If they don't, we leave them. If they need to change, we do. But I think what might be helpful is to accept this one policy as it stands, add that one line H to the annual operating budget policy, and then have this, at least this policy squared away. I think the discussion has been strong, it's been detailed, we've carefully reviewed everything, but I think we're in a good position to make a decision as to whether or not we can accept the policy as it stands, and I think there's good reason to accept it. And I make a motion that, that
Because if they chart,
we accept the free cash stabilization funds and reserve fund policies, policy as written, with the intent on modifying it and reviewing it in 1 year's time.
Do I hear a second?
I guess my question is, do we want to do that right now, or do we
I mean,
spend some
I have
time
other questions too on this.
going through prior years to see what the history is?
I don't think you're going to get any advantage out of it.
Well, we don't know that. I mean, those are the actual numbers, so.
Well, that's why I brought that up.
Yeah, they are
We do
actual
have a
numbers.
history. It's
There is
actually
a
pretty
history.
accurate
Yeah.
history. It's pretty consistent.
and plus Diane has other questions, so we can adjourn this
Table it
and
for now.
take it up.
We do not have a second at this point.
Understood.
No seconder? All right. The motion is set aside. All right. For next, we need to get moving a little on this. The September meeting, we'll plan, let's plan to tackle these and these alone. Policies only. If there's some housekeeping that needs to take place, we will take care of it. But these are the only things that are gonna be on our agenda.
And can you just reiterate what those policies are that are gonna be on our agenda? For those who may not be.
Annual operating budget process, enterprise fund policies, debt management policy, capital planning policy, free cash stabilization fund policies. We do indeed have an established committee in relationship to policies. If that group would like to get together and present to us, that would be appreciated.
That's-
Sean Ferry, Susan Jean, Karen,
Am
and Tom.
I,
And you can be just as involved.
You can be in the
however-
But you can't be a voting member, because it's a
If
subcommittee.
if all of you are sitting together, that's a quorum. So.
Am I allowed to email questions to the group?
Absolutely.
Or does
Oh,
that-
yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
yeah.
You have
That'd be
everyone's
great.
So
email?
like if I review
That's
this.
excellent.
Or what you could do is you could sit with them, I'd sit out.
Okay.
As long as we don't have a quorum.
Yeah.
Then that way you can get your
why
questions
don't we-
answered, do
why don't
something
we
like that.
just Make a shift. Karen,
Diane,
we'll put Diane in.
In my
with Karen,
place.
'cause not an excessive amount of work has been done to this day.
And
This is
I-
actually the largest amount of work we have.
Part of me feels like since I'm new
All right.
to the committee in this, I have a lot of questions and I feel like this is
That's
sort of
fine.
being written to somebody who doesn't maybe,
That's fine.
which
Not
is a
well
good
versed.
That's
thing. Yeah,
fine.
but which is also
No,
good,
but you
because you're
ask the
seeing it,
questions.
you're seeing
That's
it
what's
through a whole
important.
fresh set of eyes,
okay.
which is
So-
good.
Let's get the group, I'd like to see us get this group down smaller so we can actually get the questions, because there's a lot of questions that are coming out at this point from a larger group, and they're substantial questions. It's not like you're getting the nitpicky little questions like, oh, this word's that and that word's the next thing. We're not getting that. We're getting something that's substantial with with relationship to the percentages on the
Ask
funds. So I would like to be able
That's
to
a
make
question.
some real progress at our next meeting.
So why don't you
So-
set a bunch of intermediate meetings between, because
Well.
somewhere around
But-
August 15th, we're submitting a grant to the Collins Center with this as the basis of that grant. So if you're
If we,
planning on meeting
if
in
we
September.
submit these policies to the Collins Centers, does that make them final or we can still make changes to them in September?
Oh, we've already submitted the policies, we had to do that already.
Okay,
Yeah, these all been
Um,
submitted
so-
already.
But you can't, once the Collins Center starts working, which will basically be as soon as we have that grant approved, which is likely the third week in August, because if we're gonna actually get a capital plan this year, we gotta get cracking. So, if you don't wanna approve them now, and you don't wanna sit here and wait till we get enough details so we at least know what you want, then we're a little stuck as a town. We've now spent considerable amount of time on 2 meetings on them. But other than questions so far regarding what percentages of the tax levy, we haven't really, so there's gotta be some other mechanism to get us the information so we can make change. Because what we're doing now is just sitting around spitballing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's gonna be our purpose is the finance committee, because most of this stuff is stuff that we would have gone over, which has already been written, so what do you want us to do?
Read it and see if it fits. If it doesn't fit, make a comment. If it fits, then stay with it. I've read it.
That's what
and
you
I
want
don't
us to-
see
okay. Well,
anything-
that's what I'm
not
that's what I'm
seeing
asking.
anything in these that are objectionable, the only thing that I have that's objectionable, and that's because it doesn't have data to back it up, is this.
What are you
The
pointing, what are
only
you
thing
pointing
in
to?
this document that I find objectionable enough to not give it to the Collins Center. And that's only because we haven't, and that's only because we have the data, and it simply hasn't been backed up by that data. That's the only reason, Tom.
And then the
As for
other thing, with
others, as
the
for-
bonding, with the bond rating, our bond rating can fluctuate based on certain things, is that correct?
Don't we want a target?
On the bond rating?
Oh, yeah, I
That's-
mean, part of the
that's-
debt management policy, part of a set of capital policies to begin with, is also to satisfy bond rating
Right,
agencies.
Is that
because that's
mentioned in
part
there
of
too?
the-
There's no
So
target bond
Criteria.
rating listed, it just says.
huh?
That's part of the criteria from bond rating agencies, is that you have policies.
No, but the bond itself, the interest rate itself is dealt with on a certain level, isn't it? Like how much we have out in bonds affects our rate? Is that mentioned in there? Or no?
No, we
isn't a
don't mention
target
that
bond
the amount that we
rating.
have out affects our rating.
It's not like what, the question would be was what affects our bond rating?
We
And how
try
can we
to
stay away?
establish policies within debt management that put us in a financial position where we'll receive a high bond rating.
When is this going in? August what?
15th,
We don't know the exact date. The best we know right now is they're probably launching the grant application portal somewhere around August 15th. Based on prior years, we have roughly between 4 and 5 days to submit a grant before the money's allocated, because they do it on a first come, first served basis.
Okay, crew.
You know,
This is what you
that's,
guys gotta do. All right, August 15th is on a Saturday, so I am going to assume that it would be during that week.
The 17th is likely the date,
Is the date that it's gonna open?
yeah, or
probably.
they do it on Friday.
All right, so this
Thursday.
is where we are. We're at the 22nd, so we have 1 week, 2 weeks. We have probably 2.5 weeks, because I'd rather have it in by the 12th, because you forget, town's not open on Friday, so that can be that in itself. So we would have to have it done by August 12th. That's what we're looking at. So do we have to approve it? What goes on here? Because if they get together,
We, the finance committee, quite frankly, should as a whole, vote to endorse, like we did those contracts, vote to endorse them. That's what we should do.
To answer your question, we
Okay.
don't specifically say what bond rating we're targeting, because
Okay.
it doesn't matter what, we're gonna get the bond
So-
rating. What we do is say, how
What
do
you
we
guys
go
got
about
going
protecting
on?
our bond rating?
Okay.
What are
Sooner
the
the
elements
better.
in
There is some
that?
dates.
What can be addressed through our policies, so we give ourselves the greatest chance of having a good bond rating?
Sean, what
That's
dates do
essentially
you have,
how we
guys?
look
What do you
at it.
have available?
Okay.
But, I mean, I can't guarantee we're gonna
You're really
get any
stuck.
particular bond rating.
So if you're out, then I can
That's not
squeeze
my
in.
And so it changes on a daily basis. Some days,
Mhm.
some days it changes on a daily basis.
So just touch base with you?
Yeah.
Just throw some dates at you?
Yeah.
All right.
And what's the
Okay.
general fund revenue?
It's kind of crazy right now.
What is general
No, I
fund
get it,
revenue?
I get it.
It's the money that's
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
collected
summertime is like
from
it is.
taxation and
I could've
some
jumped off the roof. I would've
one-time
jumped off the
revenue
roof.
sources.
So how's that different from the
Oh, I
tax
didn't.
levy?
Oh, thank you.
I'd flip
Tax
over the
levy
tables.
Tax
Take you out
levy
for a
only
cocktail.
includes what we charge the residents,
Did you flip the chair?
The,
operating
I kind of
revenues.
did.
from the model that Eric was giving you
So
before,
the general fund is what?
the general fund is gonna be the 24 million, the total that we draw in per year. And the tax levy is the 17 million that he was talking about earlier.
Yep.
So, and the difference between the
So the
17
general
and
fund
20,
is the tax, what we tax and then fees?
all monies received.
Yeah, everything, that includes unrestricted government aid, it includes chapter 90 funds,
So I
it's
don't-
everything we get in.
Okay, that's the definition.
You know, and we've gone back and forth about what is the most appropriate.
It's just, I was getting confused, because in some places it says 10% of general fund, and then other places it talks about a percentage of the tax levy, and then somewhere else it talks about the operating budget, so then it's like
It can,
keeping,
this, just so that you know, this wasn't just invented, and I don't think, you're not asserting that it was invented, but this comes out of DLS and the Collins Center.
right,
And what I've tried to do is collapse it, because they were even wilder than this. I tried to make it more consistent, so there was a consistent set of terms. It may not be fully consistent yet across all policies, but when I was starting from zero, which is where I started, I did the best I could to try to correct things, and as I have, there are certain things that I've had to go back and readjust, because I've learned more through this process, and honestly, there are ways that I think they were misleading, and they may have used vague terms that mean different things in other communities somehow. But at any rate, it's,
If you pulled it from the Collins Center, then
these
What am I
5 core
missing?
policies came from the Collins Center, but what I did is I didn't just take the policy. I started with their policy, and then I adopted good parts of the DLS policy and good parts of policies
So what
from
do we
other
need?
towns.
so why?
So, I'm trying to finish. And so what it was is collectively putting together this, what I saw as the strongest policy that we could have that best represented what I understood of Dalton.
And what does going through the Collins
Those centers, yeah,
do?
two for us then.
The Collins Center, what they do is they have a couple things they can help us with. Primarily, what we're going to have them help us with is the first capital plan. They will come in and act as
That's what it
consultant
was.
or guide, and for $36,500, if I remember the quote correctly, they will help us through that entire first year planning process.
Okay.
So they need the policies in order to do the capital planning.
They have set that as a requirement for us in order for
That's where
them
this comes in.
to be able to consult with us, a requirement before they will consult with us. And the capital planning committee has approved these policies, and on August 10th,
When did they
we will
approve
turn to the
When
select
did they
board.
approve it? What meeting was that?
Last
It was the last meeting, and I'm sorry, I don't know off the top of my head, you weren't there.
I didn't get an email on that, but anyway, okay. Just checking.
It was we had set it up as the date, it was June 23rd, I think. And it's just like July, it's the third Thursday of the month.
That's all right, 'cause you might want to find someone else also while we're talking about that. Find somebody else on the finance committee to do that.
Not a problem.
Okay. Because I didn't go in and, I've got just too much on my plate.
It's
I
fine.
just can't do it.
Mhm.
So maybe our next meeting, whatever, they can, maybe somebody'd like to volunteer for you, that portion of it. All right, so we have a deadline.
So if we're not gonna approve it, what I would suggest is that if you have specific questions, send them to Tom and myself in an email form, and we'll respond the best we can.
Or Bill can answer some questions as well, since you're new to the finance committee.
Well, should I just pose them to the whole group so
You
the
can
whole
do that.
group's aligned to
Sure.
my
Sure, you can do it that
questions, I
way.
guess?
Yeah, if you want, just send us all in one email.
You know,
But
and
we
if you
still-
wanna go in and review it one-on-one with either Tom or myself, you're more than welcome to do that. A number of other people have taken that up, taken us up on that approach.
Okay, all right, Bill, what are we gonna do?
Let us plan a meeting for the 12th, regular. We won't cancel our regular. It's 19 meetings this year.
Yep,
That's not bad for a FinCom.
yeah, it
No,
is.
it's not.
Yeah, it is. Usually summers we have off, that's why.
August 12th. Let's see if we can kind of get close to that.
Okay. August 12th. Policies. And in the interim, we'll try to get a group together.
And please email us any questions or concerns you have, whether you do it to Tom or myself or
Okay.
both.
Yeah, no, we'll
Um,
include you in an email.
You know, I'm more than happy to continue the review.
Okay,
And look, I get this is gonna be a painful process because these are the first 5 of about 20 fiscal policies the town should have. Most of the rest are,
But
In
is there
draft
a
form?
deadline for those two in
No.
August, or?
No,
those don't
are there
have-
gonna be an upcoming deadline?
I
there's
mean,
no deadline like a Collins Center deadline that we have
Right.
for these first 5.
I
There's-
would-
Collins
they're
Center's only
in-house
tied to the
deadlines.
first 5.
These
And
here.
Collins
then-
Center's tied to the first 5.
So
The
these
rest are
5
just what we should
okay.
have.
Okay.
All
The
right,
reason the Collins Center is tied to it is it's part, we have to have some movement in order to get help from the Collins Center on the capital plan. You have to have some level of finance, you can't, in other
Financial
words, you can't apply for
policies.
the grant if you don't have, if you have 0 financial policies. Just don't bother even filling out the paperwork. So that's the starting point here.
And for the record, we have had these policies already reviewed by the Collins Center because we wanted to make sure in part that what we were doing was gonna be acceptable for them to start work on our capital planning. And part of the reason is that one of the things the Collins Center usually does with towns is they spend the first year and whack you for about $45,000 to come in and write the comprehensive financial policies for the town. And then in the second year, they get you into the capital planning realm, because those are kind of the two of the big functional areas that they help a lot of towns with.
And what was her comment about the policies that we've generated?
Yeah, she had no issues with them whatsoever. She said that's a fine starting point. We have no objection to this. It's a much better product than we thought we were gonna get, so,
It's not to question your ability, Tom, as to what you've done. You've done a fantastic job. You and Eric both have worked extremely hard on it. But we're just trying to understand it ourselves, because it's just so, we thank you for being patient with us in all of this. I think we're gonna meet the deadline. We just
right.
We
need to
review
focus
and
it because
understand it.
we need to understand it, because we've never had one ourselves. So we're like, between knowing how to do a budget, not a budget, all the intricacies of a budget, as well as the stabilization funds, the debt, et cetera, it's just getting our peeps all in line with it. So
Right.
with that being said, we appreciate it. We're not-
I can't imagine for your part of this, I can't imagine these are gonna change substantially. It's more of a,
It's an
Put it in
understanding.
It's an understanding.
it's making sure that whatever the percent, I don't think the Collins Center is gonna change their capital planning if we tweak it by, instead of 12%, we go to 14%. That's not gonna destroy the way that
Get
they.
5 years worth of books. I think I
That's-
have them. I just have to go
I
to the
don't
town
think there's a
tomorrow.
thing within any
Do you
of
need help
these
with it?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna,
documents that's
Huh?
gonna change how the Collins
They'll
Center's
come
gonna
over if you
do
want.
whatever it is they're gonna do.
just more stuff.
Not-
we
it
need to-
won't-
But we need to
Yeah.
get this thing.
If
Well,
we're going
that's
through this
why-
exercise, we
So-
might as well do it so that they're useful and not something you're just gonna put on a shelf and never reference.
I think that they are, I take a little umbrage with that. I think these are excellent as they stand. And I have no objection to answering questions, and I have no objection to tweaking these things over time. But I am very confident that these things are solid and that you're at no risk adopting these as they stand.
Tom, let me say this. I appreciate your confidence. However, we have to feel comfortable with it.
Well, I understand,
And
but
that's
I.
the point we need to get at.
But I feel it's important to be clear that
On both sides.
well, I understand, I hear you, but I also said little this evening, and I want to be clear that, that this is a solid piece of work, that the fear does not need to be there. I will do my best to help you through it.
It's not fear, it's understanding. We're all members of the finance committee. We need to understand it.
Sure.
Somebody asks us a question, I don't want to say, well, I don't know.
There's been
Well,
a
but
lot of
the-
it
And this is
over the years.
and this is a new one too, enterprise fund policies. We've never done an enterprise. So this is totally out of our league right now, because we've never done one. So it's gonna be interesting to read it and see how they approach it. Because that's really what it's all about, when you think about it. Because we've never done one. So we're going off of somebody else's stuff.
Well, I would assume you've read
You
it
know.
before this meeting.
Huh? No, I haven't had a chance to. That's why do you think I'm getting off of some of these things? Because I just haven't had a chance to.
Okay.
So even if I had or I hadn't,
I mean, our last meeting went over
You
an
know?
hour and we scrambled at the end to go over them. So there's been a lot of other things popping up at meetings, and
That's why
the new
next
new
meeting
versions
of the-
were emailed out earlier today, and
With minimal changes.
I know, but it's still a different.
people need to read them.
The meeting on the 12th will be devoted to solely, and it's gonna be a regular meeting, It's gonna be solely it's gonna start out policies and it will end policies. Does
That's
everyone
it.
understand that?
No transfers, no nothing.
No transfers, no nothing. August 12th, that meeting's gonna be one thing and one
And we
thing
may
only.
walk in here and say yay, nay, and then that's it, done.
Maybe with any measure. of
Within
luck, we
15
will.
minutes. Hopefully, that's what we're gonna
Right.
do. All right, sounds good.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
And we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
I think that's his.
Thank you, that's
All right,
unanimous.
so we'll get